Welcome to the Past Lives Cafe. I am your host, Chione, an intuitive energy worker and acclaimed past life regressionist. Come with me as we journey through the spiral of time to forgotten places. Today, I am excited to have with me Rebecca, or as she likes to be called, Becca Jaffe, also known as Akashic Bec. She is an Akashic Records guide and mentor, helping those who wish to grow and deepen into their gifts, inner understanding, and spiritual journey. In addition, her practices include numerology, hypnotherapy, past life regression, emotional energetic regulation, and Qigong instruction. Through cultivating a strong connection with her guides and spiritual gifts, she has learned the language of energy, which has helped her navigate life in a deeper, more meaningful way. Her interests include an ongoing study of tarot and astrology, reading, journaling, gardening, and spending time with soul family. I am so happy to have you with us. Welcome, welcome. It's been wonderful getting to know you. Your energy is amazing.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Thank you. Everyone, if we were actually on video, you would see the most gorgeous cosmic background scene that Becca has behind her. It's just gorgeous. She looks like she's hovering in space, but has like a halo around her. So fitting. So, with that, Becca, tell me all about your spiritual journey. I'd love to know how you got into all of these amazing modalities that are tapping into your gifts.
Thank you. I would love to share. My journey really began years and years ago when I was a teenager. I grew up in a Catholic family, a religious family. I was just the black sheep. I was different and I was more called towards the esoteric and the mystical, the magical. This was the 90s and in the South, and nobody could talk about that. So I kind of kept it under wraps, but I was always going to the bookstore, going to the library, looking for books about astrology and just whatever I could get my hands on. I think I was probably 18 or 19 years old, and I learned about Edgar Cayce, who is known as the Sleeping Prophet for anybody who is not familiar. He was amazing, and he would go into trance like state and channel. He later found out was the Akashic Records. And so that's how I found out about the Akashic Records, past life regression, and things of that nature. Fast forward, life happens, and you have to grow up and get a big girl job and things like that. I went to college and I had to shelve certain things. In 2009, I went through a spiritual awakening. I went through this dark night of the soul for 7 years. It's about what it sounds like. It was terrible. I had a lot of wonderful things happen in life, but I had a lot of really, really difficult things happen in life during that time that changed me as a person. I kept wondering, why is all this happening? And it led me back into my spiritual practice. It was the end of 2015. It was almost like the floodgates opened for me. I was awakened in the middle of the night for a week by somebody calling my name. And at the end of that week, I thought I was having a nervous breakdown or something because I had guides coming to me. I had a very, very powerful experience. My guides introduced me to spirit. It was time for me to wake up. And that's when I started delving back into the astrology. I had studied numerology off and on throughout those years. I dove back into that head first. I started working with spirit and fostering a relationship with spirit, strengthening my bond with them, and realizing, oh, this is a thing. Like, we are not alone. We all have a spirit team around us, and they want to communicate with us. They want to work with us. It's just kind of progressed from there. I started learning about energy, learning about frequency and energetic signatures and things like that. And in 2020, I opened up my business, Akashic Bec, and I started basically teaching other people the same thing, all these things that I've been learning myself, and saying, hey, guess what? You're not alone. You have tools available. You have a calling. You have multiple purposes in this life. I know it's not cool these days to say that I empower people. I feel like I am empowering people to step more fully into themselves and to cultivate a relationship with spirit. And with that understanding, I feel like it gives people such a major advantage. They are able to feel more connected, feel more centered, feel more at ease and at peace with themselves.
I think whether it's the most politically correct thing to say that we empower people or not, I think that's exactly what you do. And honestly, I feel that people are looking for empowerment as a community in a meaningful way. I think that's wonderful. What do you think is the biggest obstacle for people realizing their life purposes or purpose, depending on how you look at it?
That's a great question. We have more than one. I think that's a big misconception. I have one purpose and that's it. I don't know if I'm doing it or not. If I am doing it, am I doing it correctly? Everybody always asks me, am I on the right path? And what Spirit has always told me is you're always on your path. Sometimes you might trip and fall into the bushes, or you might dogleg for a little bit, but you're always on your path. And I think that whatever makes you feel alive, whatever makes you feel solid in the self and makes you feel most connected to yourself is your purpose. And if you can't fulfill those purposes in this lifetime, it's okay. You're not on a deadline. You're meant to come here and learn and live and experience and embody. As long as you feel good while doing it, I think that ultimately could even change your purpose in an even better way than you least expected.
Yes, I love that. How many times have we thought we were getting one thing and it ended up being something so much better? That's what I was thinking when you were talking about your spiritual journey. You were just interested, even though you had grown up in a traditional Catholic household, especially in a conservative Southern area. For whatever reason, you were called to the esoteric, the more occult type themes. And yet, why were you called to that? And that calling was the very beginnings of a process that eventually gave you the tools that you could jump right back into. Before we tap into your experience with your past lives, I'd love to hear what your definition is for Akashic record versus past life. That's a big question, and I hear a lot of different definitions. I just love to hear your perspective.
Oh, absolutely. I actually get this question a lot. The Akasha records are the experiences that we've had, and not just us, not just human beings, but every living thing, every planet, every system, everything has an Akashic record. It's like a blueprint of our soul. Also, the present and the potential futures. I don't like to tell people that futures are set in stone because I feel like the future's being created in every moment. Like you said, it can be better than you can even imagine. It could be tied to your purpose, but it could be a different version of your purpose. So it's all based off of our free will choices. The records, it's not a place like people might think. The records to me live inside of us, like they're in our soul, in our energy field, in our cells. And whenever we are reading the Akasha, whether we're reading it for ourselves or we're having it read or we're doing a past life regression, something transcendental like that, we're tapping into ourselves. And as far as a past life, there are several schools of thought on this. People say that our past lives are happening at the same time as our current life. It's all happening at the same time. And I'm not afraid to say I don't know. To me, our past lives are just in a different time. They existed and we're always moving forward. So we might even be moving in a circle. I don't know for sure. I don't claim to know everything, but I will say that I feel like our past lives are the echoes of our soul's journey. They're part of an existence that we embodied at one time.
Okay, so in essence, the Akashic records are past, present, future. It's all potentiality
Yes.
that is soul based. If we accept that time is our construct, and the past life portion is just a subset of the Akashic records. I like
Yes.
that. That makes sense to me. So, did you actually experience a past life regression?
I was familiar with some of my past lives already from my reading of the records and readings that I had done previously. I was an archaeologist in training. I was an Australian man. I think I was 22 on an archaeological trip in Africa with a team. I saw everything clearly. I felt like I was there. Everything was very vivid coming through. I don't know what the technical term for it was, but there was this slope and it took us down. And when I touched the wall, an earthquake started. And we were trying to get out of this valley that we were in. And boulders were falling, crushing people, and it was very traumatic. I was running on my horse, and then when I woke up, I was in a tent, and these people were tending to me medically, and I was trying to tell them what happened.
That you had essentially touched this symbol on one of the walls that was lining the slope that you had entered to this archaeological find, right? And that this symbol looked otherworldly.
Like it was from space. And you got to figure this was around anywhere between 1910 and 1925, and there was no mention of aliens. There was no mention of these things. Like, this is not what we were looking for.
So, what was their response when you were trying to tell them about this alien looking symbol?
It's okay, calm down, calm down. And then I passed away. And it felt like I was reliving it verbatim. And it also helped me to understand chronic neck and shoulder pain that I get. And I was actually hit there, and they explained to me that I was hit by a rock and I was actually carrying the trauma of that experience. Not everybody is going to believe me. I have this journey that I have to learn and experience things for myself. I have to see things for myself and know what's real, know what's not. And not everybody, like I said, is going to believe me when I tell them what I'm seeing and experiencing, whether it's for me or for them. And I just have to learn to be okay with that, because that can cause a lot of frustration whenever you are in this kind of realm, in the spiritual realm, especially when you grow up around Christianity. I live smack dab in the middle of the Bible Belt. I can't just freely go out into the world and they'll scream heretic at me or heathen. I have no hate, no shade to anybody who is Christian. I fully respect and accept people and their personal beliefs. Nothing wrong with that at all. You have to be careful who you share things with. And I think that that was one of the reasons that I left my body, is because I knew nobody would believe me. I would sit there and have that image in my mind and that trauma, that I would carry out through the rest of my life. Probably nobody would believe me. They'd probably lock me up in an institution or something. That was really powerful. I was not expecting that at all. I had not seen that. I think I needed to experience that in that way. I needed a guide because it was so heavy and traumatic and just wild and crazy. To have somebody there guiding me, which I was grateful, he did an amazing job.
Yeah, it is important. I agree with you to have someone who is adept in facilitating because they know how to lead it so that you're experiencing it, but you don't have to relive a trauma to the extent that it's literally happening to you again. I know exactly what you mean. It's good to experience it and have the cathartic experience, but you don't have to feel like you're being crushed to death, right, in
Right.
this life,
And
or
I'm
to
like
have
flying off a horse. Yeah. It's
exactly.
like,
Yeah, absolutely. Time does seem cyclical if you're thinking of aliens back in an early 1900 time, right? But that
right.
that can definitely seem out there to someone who's in a more traditional or conservative headspace.
Right.
So to just know that you have that knowledge for yourself, and then when people are ready, then you can share it, which I think
Hmm.
is huge. That's discernment.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
discernment. But the other thing I love about that experience, as poignant as it was, is that you then could facilitate someone else's past life regression with concern and
Yes.
with care because you had experienced it firsthand yourself.
Right.
Do you get a lot of requests for past life regressions? And what technique do you use?
Yes, I would say I get more Akashic record reading requests, but when I come to my past life regressions, I think people are really intimidated. Their biggest concern is usually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see anything. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out of my head long enough, you know, to allow myself to have this experience. I'm just going to kind of sidetrack for just a minute. Whenever you are forming past regressions, readings, and things like that, put your signature on it while still maintaining like the structure, the bones of it, if you will. So I learned past life regression technique through my teacher, Laura Whitworth. She's UK based. She's creator of soul centered healing hypnosis. She's a wealth of experience. But I learned her technique, and there are certain things that I incorporate or I'm going into a past life regression. But I learned her technique, and I always want to make sure that people know that I take this very seriously. I'm very serious about people's comfort levels. I'm serious about their protection because you are exposed to a lot of things whenever you do this kind of work. I make sure people feel relaxed and know that as I guide them through it, that I'm in the driver's seat. Like, you are the passenger in this. It's like we're driving a car. I'm the driver. You're sitting in the back seat and you're looking out the window and you're observing. I make sure that people know that at any time we can stop, we can pull over, we can detour, we can go a different direction. I just know how to lovingly guide people where they need to go, because there's no sense in reliving that trauma. I knew that I was fully on board for whatever wanted to come through. And I told myself that before going into my personal experience. And I tell people that too. And that's why I'm so big about consent. I will ask, is this something you're ready to see or hear about? Because it can be a lot sometimes. It's not always sunshine and rainbows in there, but for the most part, people see things that are deeply, deeply meaningful to them. I get why I'm having this experience in this life. So that's kind of how I navigate through mine. I always make sure, like I said, I'm in a protective stance with my clients. I never want them to have a bad experience. I know you can't always protect people from those things, but you can try. You can do your best.
I love that you present it as you're driving the vehicle and they're coming along because that gives them a sense of comfort and security, number one. Two, it relinquishes that pressure
Yeah.
that a lot of regression clients put on themselves. I've
Yes.
noticed the exact same thing. Almost every single client says, I'm nervous I won't be able to relax enough or go into
Yeah.
that meditative, quiet space. And I have not had anyone not be able to regress. Have you?
I had one person who really struggled with it.
Okay.
They carry a lot of anxiety
Mhm.
regularly, and I knew it would probably be a challenge going into it, but I was willing to take on that challenge. After we tried for a while, we actually went back and did it again, and we were able to regress that second time.
Wonderful. So once they got through that anxiety and noticed that, okay, nothing's going to hurt me, I'm in trustworthy hands. Yeah, then they were able to go through it and see what they needed to see.
Mhm.
Excellent. I would say my experience has been the deaths in and of themselves are primarily what carries the trauma for my clients. Similar to how you were explaining this earthquake beginning, and it sounded like you started it or activated something.
It kind of felt that way. I was like, what
I
did
don't
I
know if that
do?
was
You
just,
know?
was that a coincidence or are you that powerful?
I don't know about that. I think it was just
That
uh,
symbol.
that symbol was somehow tied or linked to the earth in some way. I guess I never asked. I don't know if I did that or if it just happened to happen that way.
The trauma of that whole sequence that you went through, that you visualized, you felt, that is so traumatic. And I have found that has been the case with most of my clients. The trauma is in that last sequence. So I have a question for you. When I do QHHT, in addition to some other modalities, but Dolores Cannon, who is the founder of QHHT, she said that as her experiences continued, and this is at least a 50-year time span, she was noticing that as time went on in her practice, that people were experiencing less just normal lives where people didn't have these exceptional dramatic experiences, but to your point, they found meaning in that life. Maybe they were a stay-at-home mom where they had so many children to take care of, and they were just pulling their hair out, just trying to stay up with day-to-day whatevers. But it wasn't like they were Marie Antoinette. But she said as things progressed in time, more and more stuff started to bubble up, especially alien types of experiences. So I was wondering if you had seen any sort of shift in those types of regressions or heard those types of shifts. And what do you think that's all about?
So that's so interesting because first off, you're talking about the more what normal, mundane type of lifetimes. In my personal opinion, I think that there's beauty in the mundane. I think that those types of lifetimes are being shown because it's normal, it's real life. It makes us feel centered and grounded. It reminds us that we've always had normal lives. We've always had normal experiences, earthly experiences too. Profoundness was always there in the last, I don't know why, but I feel like this kind of started in the 90s. I feel like people started to really want to genuinely understand. They wanted to dive deeper. They wanted deeper meaning. They wanted bigger, louder experiences. They weren't afraid anymore of seeing the actual truth. And so maybe that's why, Miss Dolores, RIP, that she started to have more and more of those experiences as time went on. I feel like it's a generational thing too. Watching a video, do you know where your Pluto is? Like what sign your Pluto's in your astrology chart?
I used to.
Okay, that's okay.
I
So
can picture my natal chart, but I can't remember where my Pluto is. I misplaced it.
oh, that's okay. That's okay. So the reason I ask is because I was watching this video and they were talking about how the different generations that we have are kind of signified by Pluto because Pluto has a long transit. For example, I'm Pluto in Libra. That generation is typically called either Gen X or Zennial, which is like a mix of X and millennial. But anyways, I promise this has a point. So I think that especially like the millennial generation, maybe some of the Gen X and the millennials, that's Pluto and Scorpio, right? After Pluto and Libra. And I feel like something shifted in that. The essence of that Pluto and Scorpio is like mysticism. It's like wanting to know something on a much, much, much deeper level. And I feel like maybe that could contribute to some of this. And then all of the consecutive Plutos after that, like the Pluto and Sagittarius wants to learn, and wants to know all the things, So I feel like it might be because of a generational thing. Our minds are different, our priorities are different, we are different on the inside. Maybe those millennials, if they had a past life regression, they're seeing who they were when their Pluto was in something else that was more mundane, that was more compartmentalized, what we would see as average or normal.
The point is well taken. Because when a generation tends to come to a peak, if you will, once you get to the other side of that, it's no doubt that we see very different perspectives in almost all areas of life. Like you said, all the things. So we're more out loud. I think people who aren't traditional religions are living more out loud or are more authentic about that. I think that politics obviously is something that people have a lot of opinions about. And the way we raise our families, homeschooling versus public school, everything has been broken wide open. And there's a very ruddy debate about all of these types of things. I agree with you. Just the idea that we're not alone in the universe is not something that we sound absolutely crazy talking about anymore. And
Right.
I totally get that generational shift. And the other thing you said was people are more ready to see it. And
Absolutely.
there is something there about intention, I believe. Their readiness is also a very big part of where you're able to take them. During your session, you said, I'm ready to receive whatever message I need. But with clients, you actually discuss consent and how deep do you want to go here? Do you want the full experience or do you just want the Cliff's Notes version?
Do you want me to color it in the lines, or do you want the
Right. Yeah. Do you have a memorable past life from one of your clients that you could share with us?
whenever I do Akashic readings, I don't share anything contained unless it's my own or unless I have explicit permission. Um, but I actually did one for one of my friends, and I know she wouldn't care if I shared this because she's my
Yeah,
best
and I
friend.
agree with you on that, by the way,
Hmm.
ethically and not giving away someone's identity. I totally respect that position.
Yes, my best friend finally let me do a past life regression on her. She had a lifetime where she lived on her own. All of her family had passed, and she had inherited this farmhouse. And she saw that lifetime because she realized a lot of the beliefs that she was carrying in this life coincided with that lifetime. And it helped her to understand relationships. What is it I'm needing and what is it I'm trying to get out of my relationship? I think it helped her make peace with a lot of things regarding that. I won't get into too much detail about it, but I will say that it helped her gain clarity around that. And she actually needed to see that lifetime, and we talked about it later. She experienced that because it makes sense as to why I feel the way that I do now in this lifetime. I can choose to do this, and it's okay. And it goes outside the construct of the norm, what society or a family dictates to us and what we have to do or need to do. She was able to get past all of that and let it go. And so she was able to make peace with something in herself through experiencing that past life regression. And we were really, really grateful and pleased about that.
That's awesome. Has she been able
Mhm.
to hold on to that piece?
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love when that happens. A lot of your clients must leave feeling like a huge weight has been lifted off of them. I can imagine.
Yes, I strive for that. Even if we don't resolve all of your issues today, I at least want you to go home with some semblance of peace around something. We have had a whole life full of things, and we've had other past lives full of things, and we're not going to have it all resolved in one session, but we're going to try to at least move something around, shift something around so that you can move forward, as I said, more empowered, more
Yeah,
solid within the self.
I love that. What do you tell your clients that are concerned that they're making up or imagining the past life that they're seeing? I know they need comfort around this being a poignant lifetime where they can make some semblance of the thread that it ties to today.
I have heard that, and I just crack up. And I tell them that if they'll say, I don't know if this is made up, it's like, how do you know that it's not? You're tapping into your energy field. So if you made it up, then I guess you made it up. But if it helps you, then who cares? You know?
My thing is, you're going to go where you need to go, whether it's a construct, whether it's an archetype that you need to play out, or if it's a real past life, regardless of what your beliefs are, you chose somehow subconsciously this experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what you need to see for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it's not all willy nilly, you know, it like comes up for a reason.
Yeah, I just love that your energy is all about the healing portion of it because a lot of times people just have a curiosity. Oh, I'd just love to know, was I Xena, the warrior in the past? Or I feel very connected to Tarzan or Einstein, which is cool.
Yeah.
But in most cases, we're not one of them. There's so many of us and only so many of them. But I do have a question for you around that. Dolores Cannon did have some insight imparted to her, and I'm wondering your thoughts on this. She noticed that more people were Cleopatra than just one, or more people may have connected to Mary Magdalene, as an example. And she got some sort of insight on that about those personas. It's kind of more of an indigenous North American type of thought, which is fragmentary. We all can connect to fragments or maybe have fragments of specific personas. What are your thoughts? I totally did not
I
prepare you
think
for any of this, Becca. So
it's okay.
you are
No,
doing
it's
really well on your feet. I
thank
just
you.
love this girl. She's amazing.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I agree. I think we can connect to certain fragments of certain beings because also at the end of the day, we're all one. And that's what I firmly believe. Like, we're all part of the one divine source creator. And so, who's to say that we can't connect to certain experiences? I also firmly believe in walk ins. If somebody is open, if they are allowing themselves to have a soul walk into their body and have those experiences. So you may not see certain parts of their life, but you might see that one little spot. I think that's possible too. I think a lot of religious figures, not all obviously, but a lot of religious figures probably practice these very, I want to say ritualistic, but they had these spiritual experiences. Like they were open vessels probably. And so there was probably some soul that attached to them or maybe was even in their field. I think it's really hard to know because I know exactly what you're talking about. It's like I have a lot of people that are like, I was this and I was that. And I do think that maybe they were there at the time of these people when they were walking the earth, or that they connected to them in a different way.
Yep. I think that is such an amazing premise because if we're all sharing this frequency of life, and we can read each other's auric fields. We can tap in and understand how people feel. There are people that have the ability to tap into someone's thought process. Who's to say we can't do that during a regression? Or something about Cleopatra or Mary Magdalene or Nostradamus just
Right.
happens to resonate with that person.
Yes. And it could be that they wanted to show them something like there's an aspect to you that you're unfamiliar with or that you have inside of you, but you haven't fully been able to tap into it. Let me show you that you have it.
That's very powerful. I only have a few minutes left, but I have to ask you if you think people need to have more than one past life regression or more than one Akashic record reading. Would that be helpful to someone?
I am biased. I think everybody should have at least one in their life of both because you're looking at it from a different perspective, right? So you have someone reading for you the Akashic records, and then you have someone guiding you through your own past life regression experience. So it's like looking at it from both sides. But I tell people only do what you feel called to do. If you feel like you're one and done, then you should honor that. But if you feel like you need to have more than one to gain more clarity around something, then you should absolutely follow that.
That's good advice. And especially since you may have a client that has, like you mentioned, certain things they're looking to resolve, and it can't all be done in one session. Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree totally with that. A lot of times people will say to me, how many sessions do you think I should have? Let's have the first one and let's see what bubbles up, because sometimes the things that you think you need to resolve are a little bit different than what actually pops up from that experience.
Right.
I love your bio. As such an expert in so many different modalities that all tie so beautifully together, what step could we take or steps could we take to help cultivate a closer connection with spirit, higher self, source, or spirit guide? Any one of those things or all of those things?
Sure. And I love this question. I get this question a lot. I want to connect more deeply with my guides, and how does that look? I recommend people, one, start to get familiar with their own energy. Start to understand, because energy is a language, and it's like understand your language, your signature first. That way, when you start to connect with spirit or higher self or what have you, you will know that something has entered your field. Deepen into your spiritual gifts, or at least on some level. Learn how to hone your intuition. I would probably say hone your intuition first and then start developing your spiritual gifts. And once you're able to do that, once you are very familiar with your energetic signature, you can start to invite your guides. When I say invite your guides, know that they're your guides. Don't necessarily allow fear to take over, because like negative beings like to feed off of fear. But you can ask spirit to communicate with you. You can ask your guides to communicate with you, and you will start to sense a different type of energy in your energy field, and you will know that that is spirit. I also recommend people, especially after they have an Akashic reading, they'll say, how do I stay in contact with my guide? And I say, cultivate a relationship with them just like you would another person. Talk to them, ask them to be with you, ask for a sign, ask for them to show themselves in some way. And you'll start to develop a full on relationship of trust. Like I talk to my guides all the time. I know that they're with me, I know when they're around me and when they're not. I mean, it's truly just like another person.
Yeah. And a lot of people say, well, I don't want to nag them. It's kind of why they're there.
Yeah, you can't nag your guides.
Love
and,
that.
and now your guides will sometimes roll their eyes at you, and it's like, I get that. My guides roll their eyes at me all the time. Like, what? you know?
I'm sorry. I know I ask this question all the time. Like, Becca, I'm metaphorically rolling my spiritual eyes at you.
Because a
I
lot of
can't.
times they had human lives too. They haven't
It's
fully
true.
lost that. Yeah.
So they can cut us a little bit of a break. But that's a good point, because if our guides have lived the human experience, they get it. I
Mm-hmm.
doubt that there is not one guide out there that hasn't had some sort of challenge in any of their experiences that they can't relate to us.
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't think they'd fit the job.
Well, and spirit has such a sense of humor. People would be surprised. Like, guides are hilarious. And whenever they're connecting with someone, they like to connect with people that allows them to be themselves as well. They're going to be themselves no matter what. But if you're trying to put a spin on something, that's not going to work. I'm showing up authentically because that's what they do.
I have a feeling one of my guides was a sailor in his past life because he has some words I've never heard before. I'm just saying.
I love it. I love it. Oh my gosh. They crack me up. And what I also like to say is they like to sniff, just sense people. I call it sniffing. I'm going to sniff you first, like a dog, before I fully lean in.
Before I start off with the 4-letter words, I got you.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny.
I have so enjoyed talking to you.
Yes, same. I love your questions. Even though I wasn't fully prepared, that's okay.
Hey, let's be fully clear here. She wasn't fully prepared because I changed the entire agenda at the last minute. So I give you the utmost kudos, and I would feel very comfortable recommending you. But you're probably able to connect with anyone anywhere.
Yes. So I would say about 90% of my clients are online.
Wonderful. That is so great. I would feel super comfortable for anyone to come to you. You just have such a caring, healing energy. Just me sitting here looking at you with the moon in the background.
Thank you. That is so kind. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, Becca. Just dropping a quick note as we close this podcast episode for today. My sister and I have both seen Akashic Bec since this interview for different services. I specifically saw Bec for Akashic Records reading, and it was phenomenal. My sister also enjoyed her intuitive reading. She is just as beautiful a person during the reading as you've heard her on this episode. So I cannot recommend enough her incredible talents and her wonderful energy. This concludes this episode of Past Lives Cafe podcast with Akashic Bec. If you would like to contact Akashic Bec, this information will be in the show notes. If you or someone you know would like to discuss your past lives experience on the podcast, please reach out to me at Chione at quantumjourneygo.com. Finally, please check out the Mystical Mermaid Lounge podcast, a safe space for all spiritual seekers, which I co-host with Chloe Brown. And remember, while we can't relive the past, together we can heal it. Thank you so much for listening. If you are interested in my services, visit me at www.quantumjourneygo.com or drop me a note at pastlivescafe.buzzsprout.com. Stay well and be present.